President Vladimir Putin has secured a fifth term as Russia's leader in an election where there was very little opposition. His time in office has been marked by international military aggression and a ruthless crackdown on dissent. The economy's resilience in the face of bruising Western sanctions is a big factor behind Putin's grip on power in Russia, a major player in the global energy sector. The economy is expected to grow 2.6% this year, according to the International Monetary Fund, compared with the 0.9% expansion predicted in Europe. Inflation is forecast at more than 7%, but unemployment remains low. In a State of the Nation address last month, he charged that the US and its NATO allies are scheming against Russia. Putin has repeatedly argued that he sent in the troops in February 2022 to protect Russian speakers in eastern Ukraine and prevent Kiev from posing a major security threat to Moscow by joining NATO. Ukraine and its allies describe the Russian invasion, the largest conflict in Europe since World War II, as an unprovoked act of aggression by the major nuclear power. Putin praised his troops fighting in Ukraine and promised to make them Russia's new elite. He says Russian forces have the upper hand after the failure of Ukraine's counteroffensive last year, arguing that Ukraine and the West will sooner or later have to accept a settlement on Moscow's terms. Many observers expect Putin to toughen his course and escalate the war in Ukraine. Some say the Kremlin could launch another round of mobilizing reservists to swell the military's ranks and try to extend its gains in a large, new offensive. As Western aid, particularly from the US, decreases amid government deliberations, the front line shifts in Russia's favor. Ukraine faces renewed Russian offensive, straining its defense capabilities due to a shortage of essential artillery shells. Following the capture of Avdiivka, a critical frontline city, Russia gained morale despite suffering heavy losses presumed to be in the tens of thousands. To counter shortcomings, Ukraine intensified targeting key Russian infrastructure such as oil refineries and military hubs, aiming to disrupt the economy and flow of war funding. While avoiding civilian targets, these operations aim to demonstrate Russia's vulnerability, potentially reducing domestic support for the war. The terrorist organization ISIS-K has claimed responsibility for the horrific attack at the Crocus City Hall, resulting in the deaths of 133 people. Despite Russia's attempts to blame Ukraine and the West, no substantial evidence links them to the attack. The Russian government's response includes tightening control over society, preparing for further mobilization, and carrying out some of the largest air attacks on Ukrainian civilian infrastructure seen throughout the war. As of March 27, Ukraine's Navy stated it damaged 4 Russian naval ships in a missile attack on Crimea. Earlier this March, the United States sent a new military aid package worth $300 million to Ukraine. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the package will help keep Ukraine firing its guns only for a short period of time. During this time, the Czech president, Petr Pavel, announced a plan to buy 800,000 rounds of ammunition for Ukraine had secured enough funding. Poland also decided to provide logistical support to get shells to the front, later even doubling their contribution to the Czech-led plan. In the final bit of good news, French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu stated France will soon be able to deliver 78 Kaiser howitzers to Ukraine and assist Kiev with ammunition.